Okay, so as we know, we had Trump in another location at this non-union plant with people who, some of whom may be workers, or a bunch of people who were interviewed who said, you know, I'm not union, I'm not an auto worker, or whatever, and making some very interesting comments about the ongoing United Auto Workers strike, basically telling the workers that they don't understand what they're doing and they're picking the wrong targets. Take a listen to what he had to say.
In other words, your current negotiations don't mean as much as you think. I mean, I watch you out there with the pickets, but I don't think you're picketing for the right thing. But if they endorse me, your leadership, you can tell them I said it, although I have a feeling they may be watching tonight.
Ryan, what'd you make of this moment?
And he goes on and on and on and on.
Yes,
about
of course he does.
About how the UAW leadership ought to endorse him, and if he does, the auto industry is just going to explode, and if he doesn't, then it's all going to be driven into EVs, and they'll all be out of work. I think he doesn't understand. I get it. He's talking to the whole country. Yeah. But if he was actually serious about talking to the auto workers, he could have addressed the actual concerns that the auto workers are having, and they're saying, what we're striking over is we want protections for the future EV jobs. And I think a lot of auto workers and a lot of people around the country know that, yes, there are incentives in federal law put in by the IRA to move people, to move the industry quicker away from the internal combustion engine. But I don't think anybody thinks that absent that 50 years from now, it's going to be just a thriving industry. Like you're just kind of shouting into a void at that point. I think everybody knows, like, this is over. Like, we're moving toward electric vehicles. So the question is, how do we transition?
So I think the answer to that is correct. I don't know if it will be 100%, and we've talked a lot about it on the show. But I'm curious, actually, this is a tactical point I've been trying to save, and I want to get your guys' take, and I'll include mine as well. UAW President Shawn Fain was asked whether he was going to meet with Trump, and here's what he had to say. Quote, "I see no point in meeting with him because I don't think the man has any bit of care about what workers stand for, what the working class stands for, and he serves the billionaire class." So I am curious if you guys think it was tactically, it's a good move. We don't know what percentage of UAW workers exactly voted for Trump. I would venture to guess, what, 30, 40%, something like that? 40 probably is too generous. So it's somewhere
You think
around
maybe it's
that.
higher?
Probably higher.
It might be higher. Okay, so it might be higher. All right.
It depends.
Is it a tactical move then to outright, is it a good move to outright like trash a candidate who maybe at least a decent portion of your membership is going to vote for or did vote for in the past? I'm not saying he may not be substantively correct, but is explicitly aligning yourself with the Democratic Party the correct thing to do when you're going to embrace Biden and then explicitly move Trump aside, which it only gives him even more of an incentive to trash union leadership? I'm curious what you guys have to say.
Well, I mean, I think it forgets the fact that they pointedly did not endorse Biden when a lot of the other unions did.
Just had him
so he's been very critical of Joe Biden. But, you know, I don't think we give these workers enough credit for understanding the lay of the land. Auto working manufacturing jobs went down under Trump. He made a lot of promises to these, I mean, went to Lordstown and went to all of these different, places that have historic union auto plants and told them, don't sell your homes, the jobs are coming back. And it did not happen. Now, I think that that is a big part of the reason why he won Michigan in 2016 and lost Michigan in 2020. And also, we don't talk enough about the fact that actually Joe Biden doubled the margin, that Hillary Clinton still won union workers. Joe Biden doubled that margin in 2020. And I think it's exactly because more than anyone, they're tuned into the distance between the rhetoric and the reality. And listen, I think there was a lot of bait and switch going on with Trump and the way this event was portrayed and what it actually was, which in reality it was an anti-union event. He was
Could you give the
invited there
details
by
on that, Krystal? I don't think we were able to talk
so he was invited by management to this non-union shop. There were and some of the people who helped organize the event we know were affiliated with the National Right to Work movement, which is like the union busting movement. Some of the workers that were interviewed in the crowd that were even holding up the union workers for Trump signs were not union. So I mean, it was just obviously very different than what was portrayed. And Ryan, you pointed out, most of it was just like a normal campaign speech.
It was a rally, basically.
Yeah. So, many of these details may not seep through to the national public, but I can tell you this was huge news in Michigan. The local papers were covering it extensively. The local papers were covering extensively the comments from Shawn Fain and also from other UAW leadership about the distance between Trump's rhetoric and what he actually does. And like I said, I think more than anybody, they have seen the broken promises from him when it comes to labor. So do I think it's a mistake for Sean Fain to, invite the president to the picket line? You also have to think, these workers are risking a lot to go out on strike and try to achieve better wages, better working conditions, et cetera. You think they're going to turn down either a Republican or a Democrat, the president of the United States coming to stand with you, even if he's not your guy, even if you didn't vote for him, even if you're not going to vote for him? That is powerful leverage on your side. So no, I actually really appreciate the clarity of his language and the way that he's approached this, and the fact that he has been critical of Biden where they've, fallen short as well.
I wouldn't say it was a mistake to invite Biden. Of course, you take it where you can get. I honestly, though, I think what Sean Fain may not understand, though, is that he's actually making it easier for MAGA to code anti-union, in my opinion. Yeah. Because what it would mean, and there are, look, I'm not going to say Trump or many of the people who work for him are pro-union. But we were just talking about this earlier, Block. Emily, you and I were reviewing that polling from American Compass. 40% of GOP voters support unions. So, I mean, it's not, it's not all of them, but it's some. And if the quote-unquote union boss is explicitly going to come out and trash Trump to a lot of people because it's effectively a cult of personality party, they're going to be like, okay, well, screw this guy. And then by extension, like possibly screw a union. I thought it was a mistake because I think it tactically makes it more difficult for a senator like Josh Hawley, who just went to the picket line, or other senators who I know are considering visiting the picket line. It will make them appear almost as if they are like crossing into Democratic territory. And again, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the right thing. But I thought that his statement explicitly coming out to trash Trump like that, I thought it was a tactical mistake. If he wants to achieve any sort of bipartisanship. If he doesn't, that's fine. I mean, maybe he thinks it's a lost cause. It probably is. But I'm saying, like, if you want to even attempt to get it, it makes it more difficult, in my opinion. I'm curious what you think. And of course, we need to get a response.
Yeah. I was thinking actually back to Tea Party times. And I'm thinking, if someone had done what Donald Trump did last night, which was, again, like rhetoric versus results, totally different. There's a gap there that I think, again, you could have actually had the Republican debate focus on that, in fact. And the Michigan question is huge. I think that's such a smart point. He, though, has identified the single biggest wedge between workers and union support, which is the union leaders. And UAW is particularly vulnerable to that, not because of Sean Fain, but because of people who came before him.
Past,
yeah, absolutely. And if in the Tea Party years you had somebody doing what Donald Trump did last night, which was this really he made this crystal clear wedge trying to drive between the workers and the leadership, which is just tactically smart. I'm not talking about it substantively, but tactically, that is the only shot Republicans have at really, if they're not going to go full pro-union, that's the only way that they can possibly start to appeal to some of these workers. He did it. He did it very boldly, and that was Republicans have never been able to do that. They've never even thought to do that. At the same time, I do think it's very, very true that Trump is the rhetoric versus results in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin are going to be a real problem for him, because people think of union membership in Michigan. It's probably 1 in every 5 households, something like you guys might.
It's a decent. It's like 66,000, I believe.
That's a really big deal. It might not sound like it, but it's a really big deal because there's a ripple effect into families and there's a ripple effect into communities. And so actually, this is huge news. And Sean Fain coming out and just going hardcore against Trump. On the one hand, it does make it easier for Trump. On the other hand, it makes it harder for Trump. It's just there's two sides to it. I
can see it.
I mean, Ryan, I wonder if you have thoughts on Biden ran it during the debate, direct ad against Trump. And it was about unions and wages.
Oh, interesting.
And when I see that, I'm like, oh my God, Democrats may be finally figured out how to run against this guy. And to me, the rhetoric from Sean Fain is also very effective, because it's like, this guy is the problem. He's the billionaire class. The first time that Democrats tried to run against Trump in 2016, it was like, he's not a real billionaire. We have the real billionaires on our side.
Or he's actually naughty. He says bad things.
Right. And so now when I saw that ad, that was like, no, I think it was like Donald Trump talks and Joe Biden delivers. I actually thought it was effective, and I thought it could potentially land in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, where they know very viscerally, those plants and those jobs that were supposed to be here under Trump, guess what? They did not come back.
And Trump lost again.
Yeah.
And what I think it shows is that if Democrats actually do something, even the minimal amount for workers, then it really puts Republicans on the spot. It puts Trump on the spot. When Trump is running against Hillary Clinton, then he can just say, I'm for workers, she's terrible, and the workers are like, yeah, she probably would have let the Detroit go bankrupt. Like the reason Obama wins Michigan in 2012 is because they saved Detroit.
Yes.
Nobody believed that Hillary would have done the same thing. So Trump then can get away with just like some like surface level pro-worker stuff. Once you've got Biden actually doing things like going to a picket line, then you actually have to peel back what Trump is saying a little bit. It's like, okay, Sean Fain says they want a 40% raise and they want like all of these EV plants to be unionized and they want access to these plants. What's Trump saying? Trump is saying you're picketing the wrong place. You should endorse me, me. And all of a sudden that starts to fall apart. You're like, okay, he says he's for the workers, but he's not. Is he for our 40% raise? He didn't say he was. Is he for us being able to unionize EV plants, or does he just not want EV plants to exist?
Well, I think the latter is definitely the case.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so then the workers are like, okay, well, once you are on board with our agenda, then you come to the picket line and march with us. If you're not on board with our agenda, we're going to march with the guy who is.
Okay.
And to Krystal's point, I think that's the big thing. Like, Republicans still are not willing to go full, like, yes, unionize the EV plants. And so Trump knows his best option is to say no EV plants, because if you're not willing to take that step, that's the only way that you can go.
I think you guys are right. At the same time, he didn't just regale the audience around EVs. He also, Ryan, you pulled this for us. We had to give people. He basically just turned it into a rally and gave some of his more classic riffs. This one was Ryan's favorite. Let's take a listen.
You signed this. First day I was in office, I said, what is it? It's a new Air Force One. It's $5.7 billion. I said, that sounds like a lot of money for a plane. It's actually 2 planes, by the way, but they call it Air Force One. They're identical. I mean, even the wood grain, you can't tell the difference. I could tell because there was a little nick in one desk that wasn't on the other. So I could say, that's one, and the other one's two. So the head of Boeing came in and he said, sir, we have to get 5.7. I said, nope, I'm not doing it. I was supposed to sign it. I said, I'm not doing it, not for 5.7. It has to have a 3 on it. I didn't know what that meant, except I knew it was a hell of a cut, right? Right? Right, Al? Sir, we'll do it for $3,999,999,999.99, right? And I said, you have yourself a deal. So I saved $1.7 billion on that plane. I was very clever. Does anybody give me credit for that? No.
I mean,
Ryan's losing it.
if you're a Republican, how are you going to compete with that, Ryan?
You can't.
You can't compete with that.
Too good.
Sorry, Doug.
I do agree that Air Force One is too expensive.
It's ridiculously expensive.
It's ludicrous. Air Force One. He also has a common misconception. Air Force One is only the plane in which the president is on, of which we all know from the movie Air Force One. What else? Actually, my last take on this aesthetics, of which we will get into a little bit, is I did think his new color scheme was better. The red, white, and blue, as opposed to the JFK blue.
And Biden
that we
vetoed
have
it.
right now. And Biden vetoed it.
Yeah, he should have gone into that.
You know, to make a
We wanted the extended riff.
substantive point about that, not that all of your
No,
comments
no,
are
wow.
highly
Please
substantive
save us.
about the color scheme
Save
of Air
us.
Force One. Humor is such a weapon. Humor is such a weapon. And that's one of the things that every one of those like dreadful people on stage last night are completely There was not I can't think of a
Donald Duck?
I can't think of a single moment of levity. Like it was all just like
purpose.
pain and exactly. There may have been some unintentional humor.
All the sex?
Like when Ron DeSantis said he visited Ronald Reagan's gravesite, but like, just trying to play into this as much as possible. Anyway, no humor whatsoever. It was Obama was also funny. He had comedic timing and could land a joke. George W.
Bill
Bush.
Clinton.
Yeah, and it really, maybe it shouldn't be this way. It should be about the substance or whatever, but it really is so powerful and so difficult to overcome when you're up against someone who is actually just genuinely funny, whether you like him or hate him or anything.
I totally agree.
There
I
was-
also think Obama's was unfairly slandered for "You're likable enough, Hillary." I thought it was a great line.
It was a good line.
I don't think he took way too much for it.
There
I
was a
think he right.
moment where the moderators last night asked them if they could be the next Ronald
I
Reagan,
saw that,
essentially,
yeah.
meaning that they could have like a generational pull. Like, could you have a legacy like Ronald Reagan's was essentially the question. And it's a perfect question when all of them are down by, 40 points and the leader's not on stage, because you look at it and you say, absolutely not. And partially for that, first of all, Reagan was very charismatic, was hilarious,
Yeah.
and nobody on that stage has that. And Donald Trump is out, up in Detroit riffing it's such a clear contrast. There's not one person who stands out like that. And I think some of them are talented politicians. I think Tim Scott's a talented politician. I think Ron DeSantis, when he was in his moment, 2020, 2021, was a talented politician on the state level. He hasn't been able to translate it nationally, and that contrast is glaring.
No,
I am fascinated by how Ron DeSantis struggles with his face.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just like, you don't, it is. And I think that's exacerbating it. The whole time I'm like, you don't know how to just like exist without doing something. You're like moving around. Anyway,
I kind of feel bad for him.
I actually do too at this point. You know, it's like now that he's no longer a threat to anyone or anything, I just feel uncomfortable looking at these weird faces that he cannot help himself from making.
It's the smile. It's when he tries to laugh.
Yeah. Or when he thinks he lands a point. And then there's this like,
stop.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.